to talk about our product. I'm more here to talk about how to create a really good culture in business. Because we've been through the mill, we've got to a point where it's now really beginning to work for us. So I'm really sort of talking through the story that we've gone through so far, and more importantly, I suppose, where I've come from as well. Just a bit of context on the whole thing. I'm sure you couldn't really hear the video very, very well, but when I started out my career, I spent 6 years as a tech recruiter, and then I went to work with a small little company called ESAT Digiphone. I was the 5th employee, and the company grew very, very significant. It's actually known as Ireland's first unicorn, because we went from 0 to 800 people in 3 years, and we were sold for over €1 billion. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of the share option scheme there, otherwise I probably wouldn't be here today. I then basically, when we got taken over, we were pulled together to be O2 Europe, basically, which was a combination of BT Cellnet, Telford, VIAG in Germany, and it became O2. I spent 7 years with them, and it was very, very different. After going from 0 to 800 people, I went over and I worked and pulled the technology groups together across Europe. And then I went to work with O2 UK, and I had a different job completely, which was basically downsizing the commercial divisions of O2 UK from about 3,500 people to 1,800 within a year. I then came back to Ireland and I started a HR consultancy, because that's what I knew. And I started in Lahinch in County Clare, which seems absolutely crazy because it was a time when there was dial-up broadband, and I was very accustomed to hearing that horrible sound that was coming through every time I was sending an email. I started a consultancy. We started working with high growth companies, the likes of Newbay, Open Hydro, the Now Factory, and all of those companies sold for significant amounts of money. And my job with them was basically to try and establish a culture in the organization and to hire the right people into that organization and to move it on from there. I then realized we needed to basically solve a lot of the administration issues with those companies. So I was approached by a guy in Cork to do some business analysis on a product which became HRLocker. And from 2013, we've been basically a software player where we built the product on the Microsoft Azure cloud, and it's now live in 55 different countries, and it operates within the tech, professional service, non-for-profits and construction sectors, and it works for companies with 5 to 500 plus employees. But in terms of culture, it took me quite a while when I set up my own business to figure out exactly what culture was all about. And when people talk about culture in an organization, culture will drive the success of your business. And it's basically the personality of, first off, the founder and the owner, and then it's actually the actual personality of the company itself. You have to look at how people work in that organization, why they work in it, what motivates them. And the right people who work in your business for the right reasons will help drive your actual company. Culture of your organization can also be dictated by the sector you're working in, the way you're selling, and who you're selling to. So for the most part, if I talk about HRLocker specifically, in our organization, the culture is the people within the business, and we are what they call a DDO, a deliberate development organization, where we put the people at the center of everything we do. And what I mean, that sounds very, very flippant, but what it really means is that we're constantly pushing people within our business to develop on and continue to develop their jobs, develop themselves. And it can be quite an uncomfortable place for some people to work in if they're not actually buying into that culture. And it's very unusual in regards to most organizations where people come just to do a job. But we actually hire people to come to do a job that they want to do next. And they're constantly developing as we go along. So, you know, what we do is we've established a very, very strong behavioral framework within our business that we recruit against. Some people call it behaviors, some people call it values, some people call it whatever. But what we've done is we've developed three behaviors and about 3 principles within our business. And that's been developed by the people within the business, not just by me. And they work around flexibility, teamwork, initiative and execution. And then our principles in our business around business integrity is how we sell to people and what we tell people what we can and can't do for them. We then establish another principle which is called trust and truth, which basically means that people come to work and they tell you exactly what they can and can't do. And there's no hiding anything. So from our perspective, we really needed to develop a really, really safe environment for people to fail. And I hope you all remember that horrible advert to do with tracker mortgage years ago when the guy stood up on the bus and he says, I don't know what a tracker mortgage is. So people within our organization stand up on a daily basis and say, I don't know how to do this. And the reason we've done that is because we've made it safe in order for them to be able to say that. And what it does, it gets the mistrust out of the people. So you know, if you don't have the capability to do something, that you either develop the person to do it, or you might even seek external advice or help or outsource to do exactly what it is. And this moves things along very, very quickly. People can get concerned that, like for instance, we have a test manager, a test engineer who joined us, and we decided we were going to outsource the actual testing capability. And she felt that her job was gone, but it wasn't gone, because her job was now morphed into a situation where she manages the outsourced test facility. So, will a good culture work with inside your own organizations? You have to basically look at it. It's easy to establish a good culture within a business if you're starting from scratch, but it's a lot more difficult to try and actually change it if it's already in situ. You know, if you look at hiring the right people to do the right things now and do the right things that you want to be able to do in 6 months' time or a year's time, that's where you need to focus. Too many people look at hiring people to do the here and now, and they don't focus on where that person wants to go or where you as a business want to go. A lot of people in most organizations come to an organization with a preconceived idea of what's expected in regards to doing their job. When they come and they work with us, we hire them for what they can do. We also hire them for what they will do in the future. And that always leaves them at the edge of their actual development capability all the time. And the reason we've allowed that to happen is because we've created a really nice, safe place for them to fail. Because it's only through failure that you can actually learn something. Now, some people will say that it's better to actually learn through other people's failures, and that's also important. So, what tools have we used to create this type of culture within our business? Because as an organization, we've gone literally from 2013, developing a platform to having 20,000 daily users on the platform, and we're adding close on 10 to 12 new companies every single month without any investment. It's all completely self-invested. So what tools do we use? We establish basically the vision and mission of where we're going to. But more importantly, a lot of companies do that and they actually put them on the wall and they don't address them ever again. What we do is we built them into a set of behaviors which I talked about earlier. And in order to actually create those behaviors, we selected a definition and a title of a behavior. And then when we actually looked at that, we workshopped them through the business. So we got the employees to establish what good looked like under that behavior. And we used that to hire against, to reward against, and promote against. We developed career path structures, even only a small business where there's only like 15 to 18 people in it. Everybody knows where they can possibly go within the business, as long as the business is successful. And it's not that they've been promoted because they want promotion, but been promoted because of what the company actually requires at that much moment in time. We use psychometric evaluation to understand the preferences of people. We use a thing called insights discovery, and you can use hundreds of different types, 16PF, you can use Thomas International, Myers-Briggs, whatever. Just use one of them so you can understand the communication styles and preference of your people, and that can allow people to actually start working and communicating better with each other. We then put in a thing called a skills matrix, where we actually look at all the skills across of our business every single quarter, and we add skills to it every single quarter, and each individual employee rates themselves 1 to 5 on each particular skill. And they're very, very open about it, and they can be challenged by their manager or anybody else within the business to actually say, well, you know, we had one guy who joined us as a graduate, and he rated himself 5 as in terms of search engine optimization. And there was no way he was a 5. So we had to talk him to and understand exactly why he rated himself as a 5. He rated himself as a 5 because he felt that that's what we wanted to hear. For in essence, he was a 1 or a 2. But once you actually have those straight conversations with people, it can really help them to frame themselves of where they fit within the business and what they have to do if they want to get to that stage within their actual career. Everybody has job specifications. Job specifications change every single quarter, every single year. Everything moves along. Everybody has contracts. All of the normal stuff that people need in businesses. But most importantly, what you have to do, and you have to be capable of doing this, if a person isn't thriving and developing within your business, you have to be prepared as a business owner and entrepreneur, you have to be prepared to exit that person. You explain why they are, and they either get on with the program, or over a period of time, they will actually leave your business. With no cost to yourself, but purely on the basis that it will be uncomfortable for them. If they don't want to continue on working and developing within your business, and if that's what's required, they will eventually leave. Because everybody within our business is into developing themselves, and that's what a whole deliberate development organization is all about. So, how to build a culture is you have to create a really safe environment. We are what we call a meritocracy. Open, transparent meritocracy, where people can basically challenge anybody within the business, and everybody has a believability score. So I'm challenged on a daily basis by everybody within our business, and I listen to what they have to say, and they can bring things forward. They can challenge stuff. And once they actually have some substance around it, we get some fantastic ideas around us. Employees in general in most organizations bring two people to work. The first person is the person who does the job, and the other person is the person who's actually afraid to say what they're not capable of doing. So we've actually created a way that they can actually say, I don't know how to do this, and it's seen as a badge of honor. If a person says they can do it, and they can do it by a certain time, and it's not happening, then questions are asked. They can turn around and they can say, I can do this if I go and learn this, so we know exactly what the rate of development of that person and what we need to achieve is going to happen. So what you do is, people in our organization are not afraid to show their vulnerabilities. And that could be a personal thing. It could be a situation that there's something going on at home that is happening, that is actually stopping them from developing within our business. Once we know the situation, we can actually work with that. If a person's weaknesses are known, this affects people's perception of that person. But within our organization, that doesn't happen, because people know where they stand all of the time. And when we finish a project, or when we're doing something new, we always have a development diagnostic at the end of each particular session or project. And what that is, what we've done wrong, what we can do better. But it's a situation where there's very, very little ego involved, and egos are left outside the door, because there's no place for ego in an organization like ours. Now what we've done is, because we've got that culture going, and because what we do is we developed a HR platform to automate the basic people management and the recruitment for companies, from small to large. What we've done is we started developing that into our product as well. So now as a product, it's becoming a situation where we're showing people that if we can do this, you can do this. And by the way, here's a product that can actually help you do this. But the most important thing from our perspective, and that has driven our company forward so far, is the development of the open and transparent environment. And once you actually have that, you have to constantly measure, rinse, repeat. Measure, rinse, repeat. And constantly keep learning as time goes along. So, where has this worked before as opposed to just this small company in the west coast of Ireland in the Hinch? Current DDOs, which are well noted. What happened a number of years ago, up until about 8 years ago, the neurologist kept saying to organizational psychologists that the brain stops developing at the age of 32. And the organizational psychologists, all of their time and all the development has been done down through the years with child development and adolescent development. And the organizational psychologists were all doing their own thing, and they were saying, no, that's not the case. While the neuroscientists were saying, well, it is the case, because physiologically the actual brain doesn't develop beyond the age of 32. 8 years ago, the neurologists put up their hands and said, oh, sorry, we got it wrong. So there was a couple of people that came together. One guy called Robert Keegan, a lady by the name of Lisa Lasko-Leahy, Deborah Helsing, Matthew J. Miller, and Andrew Fleming. And these guys are all organizational psychologists based out of Harvard. And they went straight out to the marketplace, and they sourced out, and they looked at 300 companies, and they boiled it down to 3 particular organizations, which was basically Bridgewater Associates, Next Jump, Decurion. Bridgewater Associates is the most successful fund company in the world, hedge fund in the world, run by a guy called Ray Dalio. And they lived with that company for a year, as they did with Next Jump, as they did with Decurion. Decurion basically would, if you've been to the States, you've been to the cinema, and you've seen ArcLife, the cinemas, that would have been part of their portfolio. And what they realized that these companies were doing things way better than everybody else. And why was this the case? And they realized very, very quickly why it was the case. And they realized that they're actually putting the human and the adult development of their people at the center of everything. If you take NextJump, for instance, NextJump had grown to about 150 employees. When the dot-com boom or bust hit in 2001, they went all the way back to 3 people. And when they started developing up further, they had a turnover of their IT staff and their developers of about 40 to 50%, which is probably about the average for a tech company within the US. But they couldn't go ahead with this. When they put the adult development at the center of what they actually did, that turnover percentage went from 40% down to single digits in less than a year. And they've grown exponentially from that time. So if you want a really good understanding of this, we were doing this and we didn't know what we were doing. And I was introduced to this by a guy called Joe Kelleher from Intertrade Ireland. And he told me at the time we were a deliberate development organisation. I said, what the hell is that? So he shared this book with me. And like any entrepreneur, I went out and I put the book aside and didn't read it for a while. And then I am actually dyslexic, so I do Audible a lot. So I actually picked up Audible, put it onto Audible and listened to it. I listened to it about 12 times since. And it's a really good case study across 3 very successful companies. And the last thing that was asked in the actual situation was, did they become a deliberate development organisation after we were successful? Or was it actually the reason for their success? And each of the 3 CEOs of each of the organisations and everybody within those organisations stated that it was the reason for their success. So, to sum up, I know everybody says this, but in general, and being very genuine about this, you know, if you want to go this route and you really want to develop your business on further, you know, if you put the people at the center of what you do, because they are your biggest asset within your business. And as Alex described earlier on, if you don't recognize that, it can cause a lot of trouble. If you create an open and transparent organization where it's okay for somebody to say, I can't do, or I may fail on this, or I don't know enough about this, as opposed to them seeing this as a way of demonizing them from a career going forward, it makes it a lot easier. Your employees have to help you to build the culture though, because there's no point in you trying to build it from the top. You can start the culture, but your employees have to really, really help you. So how we did that was we got our behaviors, I came up with the titles, I agreed to definitions with the top 2 or 3 people in the business, and then we workshopped them, and we asked our people within our business, what does good teamwork look like? And they told us what good teamwork looked like. We asked them, what did good flexibility look like? And they told us what good flexibility looked like. And we asked them, what did good initiative and execution look like? And they told us. And they now have that as a set of principles that they can use on a day-to-day basis. So if I am not applying teamwork within our organization, they can bring me straight back to our definition and say, you didn't do this. And like everybody else, I'm learning as time goes along, all the way through. I certainly don't know anything. And I personally don't like the term expert, because if somebody is introduced to me as an expert, as soon as they're introduced as an expert, there's probably somebody an hour later who's actually better than them. So they're not the best expert. Because I think when people actually profess themselves as being an expert, they tend to put a block on their own capability in learning. You know, we use tools. You need to use the tools, but you need to use them constantly. You need to reinforce them. Like as of yesterday, we were using Insights Discovery to improve the communications with the people who are in our business. And we brought everybody through the whole thing again, and we will reinforce that with behaviors next quarter. We will reinforce that with the sales strategy the following quarter. You're constantly using the tools. You're just not using the tools and just walking away from them and getting a warm sensation. And that's it. The tools are used constant. And this will lead, and it has led to us, to become way more profitable. And the growth that we've gone through in the last year is testimony to that. So thank you very much.